Good morning. Good morning. What is going on, everybody? Thank you very much for being here Thursday, May 29th at 8 a.m. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Cheers to everybody. Hope you're enjoying your coffee, your tea. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. I see everybody's already got a lot of the comments. They're going at it. Everybody's already going at it. Everybody's already yelling at each other. Why would LeBron take a pay cut? The Thunder get to the Western or get to the NBA Finals. How far are the Lakers from the Thunder? Everybody's already going at it. It's fine. It's it's fair. It's fair. Everybody's got their own thoughts and their opinions. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. All right, we got a lot to get into today. Looking forward to today's show. I'll get into the rundown in just a second. Before I do so, I do got a quote for everybody. So thank you very much for chilling here. Okay, so let's start here with I do actually think it's kind of funny just to see all the comments in here. Everybody's already got their stance and their opinion on everything, which is fair. That's exactly how it should be. Okay, let me give everyone a quick quote here, and then we'll get the show started. By the way, let me just say this real quick. If you're hanging out on a channel that's obviously predominantly Lakers basketball, but also heavily focused on NBA. And we're a month into Lakers being eliminated, and we're about a month away from free agency starting. That means you're a freaking fan of this channel, or you're just obviously a big fan and enjoy coming on the show. So thank you for doing so. I appreciate it. I know, obviously it's easy to come on the channel when things are booming, when things are going phenomenal, when Lakers are in the heart of the playoffs or they're making a playoff run. Trust me, you wait another couple of weeks as we get closer to NBA free agency. The channel will be doing what it typically does around that time of the year. July is going to be a very busy time. I'd say last week of June for, let's call it to mid-July, something along those lines. It's going to be very busy as well, just because of all free agency and everything else. But if you're here on May 29th, that means you're just freaking hanging out with Slee. So I appreciate you very much. These are the real ones, I'd like to call them, the real ones. All right, let me give everyone a quick quote here. I saw earlier, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once. Don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once. All right, good quote right there. Let me give everyone a quick rundown of what we got going on. Today. Let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show today. Thunder reached the NBA Finals. They are the second youngest team in NBA history to make the NBA Finals. I thought they were the youngest. I guess the Portland Trailblazers back in the mid-'70s or something like that. I guess something along those lines. They were that's the youngest team ever. So the Oklahoma City Thunder are in the NBA Finals. How far are the Lakers from the Oklahoma City Thunder? I mean, are we talking? How long of a distance are they from the Oklahoma City Thunder? I'm only asking that question because obviously the Thunder are there and the Lakers are not there. And if you're going to get to the NBA Finals or compete for an NBA championship, now everything's going to run through the Oklahoma City Thunder. And for how many years are they going to have to run through the Thunder? We'll have to wait and find out. We'll spend a little time talking about that. Listen, the LeBron pay cut thing. Will LeBron take a pay cut? What's going to happen with his contract? There's a reason why I asked that question. The question, Brian Windhorst was on, was it Pardon My Take? I have to look. I think it was, I know it's the Barstool Sports show that he was on. And I'll get the details of it once I read the quote. But Brian Windhorst was talking specifically about LeBron, his contract. So we'll get a little bit into that. Listen, in a perfect world, and I know there's no such thing as a perfect world, but LeBron's trying to help the Lakers. All right. And by the way, he's also trying to help himself, because the more LeBron can put out a competitive team out there and give himself a shot at another NBA championship or something within that realm, and I know that seems like the Lakers are so far from that, the better chance he gives himself and the Lakers to compete. It's obviously, it helps him as well. So we'll see if there's some type of a happy medium there. A lot of it's also going to have to do with what players are available. I mean, LeBron's not going to take a pay cut in order to help the Lakers grab a guy that's not going to help the Lakers. Sammy Long is going to join the show probably about 8:15-ish, 8:20-ish, somewhere around there. Sammy's going to join the show. We'll shoot the shit for a little bit, just talk a little bit, obviously talk a little bit about the offseason, really more the playoffs. I want to talk to Sammy a little bit. I told Sammy just pay attention a little bit more to the playoffs so we could talk a little bit about the series that just ended, the series that could end tonight between the Knicks and the Pacers. I'll get Laker fans' opinion, their thoughts on Jaxson Hayes. What do you think about Jaxson Hayes? Is that a player that you want to see come back? I think it's trending more. I think it's trending more towards he's not going to come back with the Lakers. And Jaxson Hayes is a player that really they didn't use that much in the playoffs. So, I mean, how much is that going to really have an effect? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I think for me personally, as I talk about Jaxson Hayes, that dude's a backup center, period. And the Lakers were trying to, put him into the starting lineup. And we all know that he shouldn't have been a part of the starting lineup, but Lakers really didn't have a choice. And then the last thing I'm going to do, two other things. Knicks and the Pacers got game 5 tonight, so the Pacers could very well be in the NBA Finals. I still got a lot of people telling me that I'm sleeping on the Pacers. You're right. I think I am sleeping on the Pacers. But I don't think that series is over. I still think that series is still I don't think the Knicks I would expect the Knicks to win tonight and send it back to Indiana. That's what I would expect to see happen. And then it's obviously up to the Pacers to handle business from there. So Knicks and the Pacers tonight. And then I didn't get a chance to do this yesterday, so I'll make sure to do it today. You guys see what KCP was saying about the 2020 championship with the Lakers, that if they kept that roster together, that the GOAT conversation would have been over because the GOAT conversation would have been over because LeBron would have won 2 more championships and he would have had 6 NBA championships, tied Michael Jordan. I mean, KCP had some things to say, so we'll get into that as well. Thank you for being a part of the show. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. If you guys can do me a quick favor, please subscribe to the channel. Take a quick second, subscribe to the channel. Many of the people on here are probably already subscribed, but maybe there's a few that have not yet subscribed, or maybe a few that are not part of the live show are watching this thing recorded. If you can subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate that. All right, let's get the show started. I do want to look here. Somebody did lob a quote here. Life is painful. Change is painful. Growth is painful. But in the end, nothing is as painful as staying stuck where you do not belong. Damn. Phenomenal quote. Really, really good quote there. Life is painful. Change is painful. Growth is painful. But in the end, nothing is as painful as staying stuck where you do not belong. I love that right there. Phenomenal, phenomenal. This is the one that I was saying Pacers are being overlooked in the finals matchup. This is coming from Sal. There's more and more people that feel that way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's taken on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, let's start off the show just real quick here. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Thunder, but they are going to the NBA Finals. So let's give credit where credit's due. A team that won 68 games in the regular season, getting to the NBA Finals. I was reading something this morning. Their 4th win, they took out the Minnesota Timberwolves. This wasn't even a series. It wasn't even close. I mean, maybe you could say, okay, hey, Minnesota won game 3. Minnesota made game 4 very, very competitive. But at the end of the day, I didn't think this was going to be much of a series. I didn't believe much in the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just didn't. And I thought, give them credit. They got to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row. But and by the way, I'm not taking anything away from them. That's a very, very impressive feat for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, only 23 years old. Pretty cool what they were able to accomplish. But I just didn't believe that they were a true championship threat and that they were going to get to the NBA Finals. Oklahoma ends up blowing them out. I mean, yesterday was just, there was no purpose in watching that game. By the time the first quarter was done, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and do other things in my day because I'm not going to waste my time watching this game. It's their 4th win by 30 or more points in the playoffs. I think that's a record that they also broke. They're going to be obviously the heavy favorites in the NBA Finals. Very, very odd to see this young of a team have this much success. But, we know the conversation around the Oklahoma City Thunder, and this has been going on all season long. And this is everybody. This is not one person. This is not everybody has said. The question with the Oklahoma City Thunder, it doesn't really matter what they do in the regular season, but do they have enough experience to make it to the NBA Finals? Well, we got our answer. And now the question is going to be, do they have enough experience to go win an NBA championship? I will tell you they're going to probably be whoever comes out. Let's just assume it's the Indiana Pacers. They're up 3-1, so why wouldn't we assume it's going to be the Pacers? they will be the heavy, heavy favorites to win an NBA championship. And I think that's pretty apparent. That's pretty clear to see. And frankly, I mean, there's really no reason why they wouldn't be. Shea is the MVP. They got other studs that are stepping up right now, too. Jalen Williams is a stud. Chet Holmgren, whatever you thought of Chet Holmgren, he's got a nice role, and he plays a perfect role on that team. And he's not really asked to do too much, yet he does a lot. Caruso and Dort, and go down the list of all these other players that are on that squad. They'll be the heavy favorites, and they may very, very well win their franchise ever championship, and they may be doing it here in the next couple of weeks. I don't think the playoffs start, or I don't think the finals start for a week. So I think the finals start next Thursday. So whatever that is, June 4th, 5th, whatever that is, that's when the finals will start. And then, after that, a couple of weeks, and then the NBA season is over. I thought it was interesting yesterday. The one piece that I thought was interesting, and I'll lob this question to Laker fans as well. How far are the Lakers from the Thunder? How far are they actually from competing in the Western Conference and truly, truly competing of making an NBA Finals berth? You guys can answer that question for me. But I don't know if you guys noticed this yesterday, but when they won the NBA, when they won the West, and they're presenting them with the Western Conference award or whatever it was, they got to, I think it was the coach, Mark Dagenot, who was kind of going over hey, ownership, give them credit. And then they got to Sam Presti, who is the president of basketball operations, the general manager for the Oklahoma City Thunder, that has put this roster together, that I will continue to say, give this man as much praise as possible. You can argue he's the best executive in the NBA. Now, somebody had a point yesterday saying, how can you say he's the best and they haven't won a championship? Well, they might be winning a championship here in the next couple of weeks. So I think that will shut everybody up in regards to that. And they got to Sam Presti, and he said, Sam Presti, congratulations to him putting this roster together, everything else. And then it was just the crowd that was giving their love to the executive. And it was kind of a unique moment right there. It's like, all right, well, obviously this franchise and organization understands how key your front office is and how big time that front office has been, and they're probably not going anywhere for a while. Now, you never know what can happen. There was a time where the Thunder, with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, they made the NBA Finals. You thought this is going to be the team that makes it for X amount of years. And then the Thunder, panicked, didn't pay James Harden, and never got back to the NBA Finals again. So you just never know what can happen, but maybe they learn from their mistakes. Maybe they don't. But the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to the NBA Finals, and we'll take it from there. So how far are the Lakers from the Thunder? Honestly, I think right now, if your hope was that the Oklahoma City Thunder just don't have the experience, that's done. I mean, they beat the NBA champs, the former NBA champs, in the Denver Nuggets. They beat them in 7 games. They're getting more and more experience as they move on. I don't really think they're going to see any more curveballs anymore. So I think, listen, do they still have to win a championship? Sure. Are they getting to the NBA Finals? Sure. But I think getting out of the Western Conference is more difficult than winning an NBA championship, in my opinion. And they've already done that. The West was kind of odd this year. Steph Curry was hurt, and the Houston Rockets weren't ready, and Denver changed their coach with 3 games left in the regular season, and the Lakers had an incomplete roster. The West was a little all over the place. I'm not denying that, but the thought process of, because I remember this. I remember every time the Lakers played the Oklahoma City Thunder, every time the Thunder got brought up, it was always, hey, they just don't have the experience to win an NBA championship. They're in the NBA Finals. They've kind of cruised through the playoffs. Yes, I know they went 7 games against Denver, but go look at Game 7. They took them out. The distance of where the Thunder are compared to a team like the Los Angeles Lakers, if coming into the playoffs you thought, hey, Lakers are a number 3 seed, they won 50 games, you feel good about kind of their playoff run, blah, blah, blah. They got Luka, they got experience, they got all this other stuff that the other squad doesn't have. If you felt like that was an advantage, once the playoffs started, the Oklahoma City Thunder were a stock going up this way, and they get to the NBA Finals, and the Lakers, honestly, they cratered, completely cratered. So how far are these two franchises from each other? How far are the Lakers to actually making an NBA Finals? I think this playoff run has proved they are so much further than you actually thought. They are so much further than you maybe have predicted coming into the playoffs. Remember, the Minnesota Timberwolves took the Lakers out in 5 games, and that series wasn't even close. You might say, hey, what would have happened if they won game 4? What would have happened if they didn't blow this lead or that lead? But they didn't. So, the Minnesota Timberwolves took out the Lakers. They took them out from the start of the NBA playoffs in that game 1 where there was just these wild excuses of, yeah, but, the Lakers just weren't ready for the playoffs yet. The Minnesota Timberwolves made the Lakers look really, really bad. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder made the Minnesota Timberwolves look like a lottery team that didn't even belong in the playoffs. So that's how far these two franchises are, and that's how far the Lakers really are of making any noise come playoff time or come off season. That's how much work the Lakers have to do. Unfortunately for the Lakers, and I'm just kind of being real with everybody, unfortunately for the Lake Show, they've also kind of put themselves in a position where the Western Conference is only going to be more and more of a headache. We'll just have to see, what happens in the offseason. Unfortunately for everybody that's watching the NBA playoffs, the Oklahoma City Thunder are probably only going to get better. And they have more and more assets. And what are they going to do in the offseason? And how are they going to make moves and maneuver and everything else? That might just be more and more of a headache as we go on. All right, let me look at some of the comments here, and then we're gonna kind of keep going with some of our conversations. But I give OKC all the credit in the world. Here's a good comment. They grew up in the Denver series. You may very well be right. I thought it was interesting. At one point, their coach said, I think it was after they lost game 1. Did they lose game 1? I think they lost game 1. That's the game that Denver came back in. That after they lost game 1, OKC had the coach said something along the lines of the squad, their team was basically learning as the playoffs went on. As in literally as the playoffs go on, they're just trying to gain experience as they go. All right, that's pretty dangerous. OKC have a player that is injured. I forgot his name. People who say OKC is no good are the people who think the Lakers are great. Let's see what we got here. Carlisle will coach his ass off if Indy gets to the finals. Minnesota is overrated. Yeah, I was never really sold on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And again, I say that, and I'm also going to give them credit. They whooped the Lakers' ass. All right, let's see what else we got here. OKC will be better next year and the year after that. Yeah, everyone's trying to kind of catch up to OKC. And there are some teams out there that I think will be a headache to the Thunder. I mean, I think the Houston Rockets are a player away. What happens if Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are healthy? Obviously, we'll see what the Lakers do this offseason. Is Dallas going to make a move to get a guard and then eventually Kyrie comes back? Are the San Antonio Spurs going to be wildly aggressive in the offseason as well? It's not like there are no teams in the Western Conference that are going to compete against Oklahoma City Thunder. It's just giving the Thunder kind of their due and their credit and go from there. All right, let me see a few more comments here. And we'll go from there. Rockets are – I don't think so. No, I think Rockets got a squad. Now, do they need to make some work? Definitely they do. Let's see. Okay, Minnesota overrated and made OKC look better. All right. There's by the way, I appreciate all the comments and the thoughts and everything else. And we'll get into a few things here together. I do want to bring Sammy on. I mentioned that Sammy was going to join the show this morning. So Sammy's going to join the show, and then we'll kind of hit on all these conversations together. Let me bring Sammy in here. Sammy.
Alan, what's up, dude?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. You in SD or LA today?
Today I am in good old Solana Beach, California.
This cloudiness is not liking it.
Yeah, no, I know. We'll be fine. Don't worry. It's the 2 weeks will go by and then we won't see a cloud for 6 months. So okay, now I'm gonna throw you out here. I'm gonna kind of throw you under the bus a little bit here. I need you to help me out here. You liked Minnesota. What happened? Because here's what I want to do. We're trying to have the conversation of basically how far are the Lakers from a squad like the Oklahoma City Thunder. I know that, coming into these playoffs, listen, whether you liked Minnesota to win the whole thing or not, did you think they'd be at least more competitive? And does this kind of also just change your view on the Thunder? Like, yeah, maybe this team is better than you thought. Just give me your thoughts on it.
Well, I think Oklahoma City, we all know what they are. They're a very good, very young, very talented team. I thought Minnesota would be able to give them some problems because of the size. I thought the one weakness, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's looking like the Pacers in the East. I was listening to the show beforehand. I agree with you. I actually don't think the Knicks are completely done with this series, but a team that has a lot of size. I mean, we saw what they did to the Lakers. I don't think that Minnesota was necessarily the more talented team than the Lakers. I just think the fact that the Lakers had no big and they got completely outmuscled. And you got to give Minnesota credit.
Matchups, right? Matchups and Minnesota. Just there was literally no. Lakers didn't have a plan B, and if they had a plan B, JJ Redick refused to try a plan B.
Like Minnesota, even though Oklahoma's, and I'm not saying the Lakers would have beat Oklahoma City. So before that gets out there, I'm not being delusional. Mm-hmm. But the Lakers, if you looked on paper, matched up better against Oklahoma City than they did Minnesota. I mean, how are you going to guard Rudy Gobert? Rudy Gobert is best game in the playoffs because the Lakers simply did not have a human being to guard him, and then they wouldn't put Jaxson Hayes in because he was awful. And so it's like the Minnesota was really tailor-made to beating the Lakers. And then I mean, Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, other guys had to show up. It's kind of like what happened to the Lakers against them. It was like Luka and LeBron were there, and Reaves and the rest of the supporting cast was just MIA. I think that Minnesota got a little bit of taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, there's a little bit of. I think, it's funny. So you said that the Thunder piece of it, and I listen, I'm with you. There was a point during the regular season, and maybe I don't know if we all got fooled on this. I don't know how to properly describe it, but here's just the kind of reality. 1 week left before the regular season ends. Lakers face Oklahoma City, and they play them really well. And whether they were going to win that second game or not, they won that first game, and they're in it in the second game. Luka gets thrown out. Then they end up closing out the season. They win 50 games, and we all kind of have this perception of like, all right, yeah, maybe Lakers can make a little bit of noise here. I think the reality is the dust settles. I think I'm less confident about the Lakers now as I've seen other teams in the West do what they've done, as I've seen Thunder get a little bit, that they gained this experience as the postseason went on. They beat Denver in 7. They handled Minnesota. I think my confidence in the Lakers has actually gone down as the playoffs kind of continue to go through. I saw what the Lakers were. I saw how Minnesota took care of them. I saw how Oklahoma City took care of the Minnesota Timberwolves. As we kind of get ready, and this offseason's already started for the Lakers, but in the next month or so, we're going to be talking a lot about how the Lakers have either improved their roster, how other teams have improved their roster. How do you feel I guess just how far the Lakers are from some of these other teams in the West?
Well, yeah, the Thunder definitely are the class. I think, I know I heard you mention the Warriors and the Rockets and teams like that. The Lakers are in a more interesting spot than those teams, I believe, because the Rockets are in kind of a weird spot. They either got to trade the whole farm, what kind of makes them a good young team, which is that they got to trade everyone and go get a star, go get a Giannis, a Kevin Durant, someone like that. And then you wonder if they have enough. The Lakers do, I feel like I don't want to put too much expectations on them, but we got to see the team with the center. I mean, it's like, and myself included, I got too excited knowing that, it was probably unrealistic to think that the Lakers not having a center, Jaxson Hayes being your only guy, was going to realistically win a title. It was kind of foolish on me, and I was excited. I thought that.
No, can I give you an idea of what it is? It's like having a really good quarterback that doesn't have an O-line.
Right.
You got to have an O-line. You got to give them time.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to match up against half these teams? So I would like to see them there. The Lakers do have the benefit of having a young superstar on the team. Obviously, the LeBron question is massive. Is he going to take a pay cut? Can you rely on? He's going to be 41 years old. He still plays at that elite level, but it's hard with LeBron because he can't. Physically, he can't play all games, and I think we saw that at the end of that series. Luka was sick and was out of shape, and then you had LeBron, who was just kind of older, and they were just wearing down at the end of games. I don't think the Lakers are too far off. Oklahoma City, I could see doing a Denver Nuggets kind of situation where they're super dominant for a year or two, And then what's going to happen? Because are you going to trade everyone to pair Shea with the superstar? Because you can't pay Chet and Jalen Williams and this whole team. I mean, this is kind of the perfect storm. I think probably the best they're going to be because of how talented this group is. I wouldn't be surprised if in a year or so Oklahoma City try to kind of get it to a 2-star team, just kind of work the salary cap.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if they end up winning this whole thing, because I think if they're going to be what's the right word I'm looking for here? They drafted so well. I know they traded for Shea, but they drafted so well. They're almost going to be hurt for developing their own players and then having to pay them. Yeah. I've read some stuff this summer that they'll probably trade Dort, and that will just kind of come with the circumstances of trying to keep, their main guys together. I don't know if they'll become like the Denver Nuggets where they're there and they're not. I think because they're so young, I think that's what makes them so fascinating. But then again, Denver was pretty young when, they won their first championship a couple years ago.
It'd be interesting to see, and maybe it's wishful thinking, because I want to give the Thunder credit. I mean, they are going to be good for years, and the most impressive part about them is that they still have a lot of picks. That's what's kind of insane, is that it's not like the whole cupboard's bare in terms.
They got assets, and they got literally as many assets as any other team in the NBA. Houston's got assets, San Antonio's got assets, so there's a few teams that have assets, but it's very odd that you're this young, you're this successful. You're about to potentially win an NBA championship, and then also you have all these assets.
Oklahoma City, though, I feel like the only player that we're sure we can be a max salary player is Shea. Shea, we know, is that guy, is an elite player, one of the best guards in the NBA. I don't know that if you pay Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, even though very good players, excellent players, and you probably go top 30 players, top 20, I don't know if we could see a Michael Porter Jr. situation where the Nuggets end up paying him almost a max salary, and then they're kind of regretting it because he's not playing like that max salary anymore. I think Thunder will have some decisions to make in coming years that'll be interesting with the salary cap.
Okay, I want to share this with everybody. I'm going to actually see if I'm able to do this. I don't think I've ever shared a screen with both of us on here. Let's see what it would look like here real quick. All right, share this. Okay, we got it on here. So one of my topics here was the LeBron piece and what's going to happen to LeBron. And let me play something off here. Windhorse was on a podcast. I think he was on Barstool Sports. And let me just kind of read here about some of the options here for LeBron and what we think he's going to do. Brian Windhorse on LeBron James. If he thinks that the Lakers may want to try to offer him less or not give him the no trade clause, he could, in theory, just opt into his contract, which, by the way, Shams Charania, he did say that on Pat McAfee's show that he does think he will opt into his contract. And he could just say, I'm opting into my contract because I'm taking it year to year, and not indicate that there was any issue with the Lakers. But I do think it's in the cards that he's taking less money. It's not that necessarily he wants every dime, although he does want every dime. I don't think he believes that free agency has got anybody in it where it takes less money and the Lakers could use their mid-level exception and have a transformational player. They may disagree with that, and they may come to him with a plan where they show him that if you take $12 million less, we can sign this guy and maybe he'll change his mind. But as far as I know from my conversations, the intention is for him to continue to make all the max which he has earned. Okay. I'm gonna probably do something a little bit different than maybe goes against a little bit what I typically say. So usually I say, hey, you're a player, you're worth X amount of dollars, go get your money. And that's just kind of the reality of it. If there's ever a year that I'd like to see LeBron James make a sacrifice for the better of the team, listen, he doesn't have to. Like, I want to make sure I emphasize here. Yes, people can say, hey, Bron's worth $1 billion. Take 15, 16 million less, dollars or whatever the case is. That's not how the world works. But if there's ever a year that I would like to see LeBron James say, you know what, I'm going to restructure my deal and I'm going to opt out and I'm going to do something that's team friendly so the Lakers can go out there. Now, the Lakers have to have a specific plan. Pelinka's got to have a specific plan. He's got to bring something to the table to LeBron and say, if you take less money, look who we can bring on this team and this roster, and our chances of competing will, significantly grow because we got to put together a roster that makes sense. If there's ever a year that LeBron can be a hero for the Los Angeles Lakers, I really do think it's this summer. Again, I understand he doesn't have to do it, but Sammy, they need help, and they might need help from one of the biggest corporations in the world called LeBron James Inc.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's tough. I mean, everyone's sitting here. You go take less money, and then if you were in that spot, you'd probably be taking on the money. But I do think LeBron is an exception. And I hear some people go, "Well, why doesn't Luka take less money?" Luka's 26 years old. Okay, like I get where Luka's like, "No, I'm one of the best players in the league. I'm 26. Like I'm gonna make all the money." When you're 41 years old, I believe LeBron bought a $60 million house in the bubble when he hadn't even seen it. He just purchased it off the thing. Like this guy is not hurting for cash. He is, as you said, a corporation who is just printing money in movie deals, got a podcast, he's got more money than his kids could ever spend. So when you're talking about legacy for LeBron, when you talk about, Jordan and or whatever you think for the GOAT, another ring would do massive service. And let's not say that he's not taking $10 million. I mean, he's not playing taking, instead of 52.6, he's taking, the $12 million pay cut. He's taking around 40. And I understand where he's like, I want a plan. I want someone to say, or Pelinka to go, we need this player. I'm not just taking less money so you guys can get under the cap. But I mean, if you were willing to do it last year, and what frustrated me last year didn't really help because he said, what was it? It was Valanciunas, Clay, and James Harden. I'll take a pay cut for. Well, you had the only guy that was a free agent was Valanciunas. And so it didn't really actually help the Lakers because then all those teams knew that if they had to trade for him or Valanciunas, they were going to have to sign for a lot more because they were one of three players that LeBron was going to take a pay cut for. So I like those conversations to be in-house, whether it's like, hey, if you get this, and this guy, I'll take a pay cut. But coming out with this whole thing of I'll take a pay cut for three players doesn't actually really help the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I want to emphasize this. It's not LeBron's responsibility to run the Lakers. Now, granted, LeBron's had wild influence in the Los Angeles Lakers. That just comes, there's a few players that have that power, and let's just say LeBron has that power. And, if LeBron has given his input before about free agents or trades or coaches or whatever the case is, like that comes with the territory. LeBron is going to, wield that power, and he should. If there's ever a summer that the Lakers can use some help, it would be this summer. And listen, I think if you said, all right, well, what's the benefit to LeBron to take less money? Again, I'm only saying this if the right player presents itself. If the right player doesn't present itself, then this is a moot point. It's not a conversation. And frankly, then LeBron, go get your money. And whether it's his last year or it's not his last year, we'll have to wait and see. The only thing I'm just saying is if there's ever, like from LeBron's perspective too, kind of looks a little bit like a hero if he can help the Lakers. I think there's also a part of this where people will look at him and be like, damn, that's kind of a baller move that guy took less money to try to help the franchise. And also from just a competitive perspective, I mean, what's the goal here? I mean, Bron is still putting up crazy numbers. He's still obviously playing like he's 35, not 40. If he's got a shot to put together and help put together a more, like you said, was Minnesota that much better than the Lakers, or did the Lakers just not have any bigs and just weren't able to compete? What can that ultimately look like? It kind of makes him look like a hero too.
Well, and LeBron this is where I get a little frustrated because it's like LeBron's got to ask himself, do you want to make all the money, which, as you pointed out, is completely within his rights. He still plays like one of the best players in the NBA. He's an all-NBA player, one of the all-time greats.
And he's underpaid. If this was baseball, LeBron's not making $52 million. LeBron's making, the only reason why LeBron makes the money he does is because there's literally a hard cap and he can't make any more.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like brand and global value, he'd be making like Ohtani money. I mean, seriously, if you were in the NBA in terms of his jersey sales. The only problem is this, though. Do you want to play every minute? Because what I don't want to hear is no pay cut And then halfway into the season, we're hearing out of LeBron's camp about how LeBron's tired. They're running him into the ground. This is ridiculous. He's not getting help from the bench. You would get help from the bench if you took a little less money. So it's like if you're gonna play, if you're gonna get paid a max salary, you need to be able to play max salary level minutes. And unfortunately, it's hard to ask him that because he is 41.
And can I be honest with you? I think then that to me is more on the Lakers than it is on LeBron, because they're already asking him to do everything. And I think in a perfect world, LeBron would love to be sitting there in the fourth quarter and hanging out and chilling and know that the Lakers, have locked up a win, or there's all these other young players that are helping the Lakers out and everything else. I think there's only so much responsibility on Bron, but again, I just kind of go back to this, and this conversation came up because I'm reading what Windhorse had on that podcast. In a perfect world, here's by the way, so here's just to give everybody kind of the difference of what it could open up. The projected $14.1 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception, and then the $5.9 million taxpayer mid-level exception could be the difference between, for the Lakers, basically competing for a championship or not. So that's kind of the only thing that the Lakers have access to if LeBron takes a sizable cut. So that's what LeBron is kind of wielding here, if he wants to use it or not. So
yeah, and it's like, I know this kind of free agency is not considered a great free agency. That's why a lot of the conversation around Dorian Finney-Smith, should the Lakers pay him? And I would say yes, simply because you need a wing. You need a wing, 3-and-D wing defender, and a guy who can hit threes. And there's not really that many on the market. But I think there are some valid players that could really. I mean, you could swing a trade for a center. They called on Okongwu. Miles Turner would be fantastic. We'll see if maybe they keep him because he might be going to the NBA Finals. But like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a guy like that, knows he immediately put you over the top to go to the finals. But you need more players like that. And I think Minnesota really exposed that in their series, because Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and players like that just had a field day guarding the Lakers. So I think that there are some minor moves to be made that could really help this roster.
Yeah, and Minnesota's also, they're not going to be able to. Minnesota has Naz Reid, Julius Randle. They got decisions to make. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So they're not going to be able to bring all three players back. I saw actually Brian Windhorse on that same podcast was talking about they're not going to be able to bring all three players back. So obviously some of these teams are going to have some decisions to make as well. All right, let me see here. Okay, so let me ask you this question. Here's the vibe I'm getting. Every time I bring, by the way, I get it. I'm looking at some of the comments here. People saying Bron is worth $1.2 billion, take less money. Guys, it's just I get it. It's just
he has $1.2 billion.
It's just not how the world works. You're going to be making. He's got to be making what he thinks. Obviously, his value is, and he's only going to take less if he genuinely believes, hey, we're bringing in somebody that can significantly help. So we'll see what LeBron ends up doing. I do think from a public relations perspective, freaking Laker fans would absolutely, love, obviously, if he did something to help the squad out and go from there. Okay, I'm going to just kind of give my vibe. And I don't know how accurate this vibe is, but doing the Daily Show, obviously very, very involved in a lot of Laker conversations and everything else. The vibe I get when Austin Reaves' name comes up, and I don't know if this is just the masses that are, people who are usually louder when they have something negative to say over somebody who's got something positive to say. What's the saying? The saying is, if you go to a restaurant and you have a positive experience, you tell one person. If you have a negative experience, you tell 10 people. That's just kind of comes with, go watch the news. The news is always on negativity rather than positivity. Austin Reaves did not have a good playoff run. And he's been a big part of the conversation of, well, what should the Lakers do with Austin Reaves? Eventually, he's going to be making $25-30 million a year. That's just going to happen. And that's going to happen starting next year, not this upcoming year, the following year. The vibe I'm getting from a lot of Laker fans is you got to move on from this guy. What's your take on Reaves? And do you agree that a lot of Laker fans vibe is Reaves. It was fun while it lasted. We can't have you with Luka in the backcourt, and we got to use you to go get a big. Is that the vibe that you get as well?
It depends on the trade market because, like, I think you could get a Nick Claxton, a guy, maybe a second tier center not for Austin Reaves. I think that's manageable. Again, with the Mavs not taking all the picks, having a first round pick to trade and multiple pick swaps, you could get something done while keeping Austin Reaves. I think it's easy to get overreactionary, and I would keep Austin Reaves unless the goal is we're not gonna pay him going forward. There's no shot. Instead of just letting him walk out the door next year. I think if that's the case, he'd be very valuable at the deadline. Austin Reaves had a terrible series. He was awful. But, I mean, let's not forget that a month before then, everyone's like, is he the best third star in the league? I mean, that was the conversation when he dropped 45 on Indiana. He was carrying him and LeBron when Luka was hurt after they traded Anthony Davis. The reason they were even able to get to that number 3 seed. So it's like we take one series and he was bad, and there's no excuses for it. I know they came out with the toe injury, but everyone's has an injury at that time of year. I think it'd be a massive mistake. I think that they need to, if they improve the roster, there'd be a real thought to, and I know some people are going to go, well, he makes too much money, you can't bring him off the bench. Austin Reaves would be 6th man of the year. If you're really that worried about Luka and Austin Reaves being on the floor together, which I get because neither really plays that much defense, if you brought Austin Reaves off the bench and got a little length in your lineup and was able to kind of go more defense and let Luka do his thing with the starters and let kind of Reaves spell him, I mean, he would destroy a second unit, and you wouldn't have these problems with the 1-2 guard spot where you can't guard anybody. But yeah, so I mean, if some unbelievable package came along, you got to listen to it. But I don't think we need a reactionary trade Reaves because he had a bad series and his value might be a little diminished right now.
Yeah, I think a couple things. Number one, I was always a fan of. I did think that there was. I wanted to see Dorian Finney-Smith in the backcourt with Luka. I thought that was the right backcourt to have, and I knew the Lakers wouldn't do it, but I did think Reaves coming off the bench was probably he's still going to play 30-plus minutes. Nobody was saying you're going to take those minutes away. I think the question that comes up with Reaves now is based on the assets that you have, based on the fact that you're trying to build around Luka, based upon how do you put together the proper roster. You know, it's kind of ironic. The Lakers actually, with Anthony Davis, had put together a really good roster. It just felt like the pieces were there. I'm not saying they're going to go win a championship. They probably, are not representing the way. I'm not saying that. But you had your center. You had, you kind of everybody knew their role, their positions. Okay, you make the trade, and now you're trying to figure out, all right, what exactly do you do with the roster? AR might be the only piece that you can actually significantly improve from a center spot. His agent came out a couple days ago and said something to the effect of, second string centers, people talking about trading him for second string centers. I don't think anybody's saying that. I think people are just saying that, can you get a real piece that makes sense with Luka as you kind of start this rebuilding process? I'm a fan of the AR off the bench. The question's going to be if you start paying him $30 million a year and you really have AR come off the bench.
I understand that. And I, again, if there's a massive center that moves the needle, a Bam Adebayo, I'm just throwing a name out there. Someone, obviously Giannis is in a different stratosphere, but that would be a huge package. Like then I'm with it. But just getting him off the team in just because he had a bad series, there was a lot of players on that team that had a bad series. I mean, a lot. So, and I know that expectations come with it. He's about to get the big contract, and he's extremely tradable right now because of the contract. He's probably one of the best valued contracts in the NBA right now, considering what he gets paid versus the value he gives you. But I just feel like it'd be a little bit of a shame. He was really starting to come into his own the back half of that season to just deal him right now and watch him go be a star somewhere else.
Well, there's also I think they're two completely different players, but there's how much regret from Laker fans on Alex Caruso, right? Watching him do what he's doing, but now he's got a specific role.
Josh Hart.
Josh Hart is and listen, I know some of these trades happen over time, and it's kind of is what it is. The Alex Caruso piece, that one's tougher to taste because he wanted to be a Laker, was willing to take less money to stay with the Lakers, and the Lakers still said no. So I think and not every player is created equal, but we'll see obviously what that means down the road. All right, yeah, and the reason why I say it, so I put out a video. You know, Lou Williams does that show, the FanDuel TV show, and Lou Williams had basically said, like, look, they don't need AR anymore. They need a big. And I took that clip and I did kind of my own video on it. And the comments that are on there are so many people that are basically like, I agree with Lou Williams. They don't need AR anymore. They do need a big. You got to build around Luka. So that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting in regards to Laker fans. And I got to be honest, I don't completely disagree, but I go back to what you said. It's got to be the right player. It's got to be the right center. It's got to be somebody that is significant, that you feel like, hey, AR's got talent. AR's got value. So you can't just give up AR for, obviously a player that doesn't make sense. But I'm probably holding on to Austin Reaves this summer, and I'm making a decision closer to the trade deadline than I am. If you don't think you could put together a deal with Austin Reaves, then by the trade deadline, maybe then is when, and you're kind of seeing where the team is and what does the team look like if you actually address getting a big and some size by the time, next season starts, then I'm making a decision from there.
I would really like to see Luka brings the ball up, but what this team really hasn't had, and they need the center, they need 3-and-D wing defenders. That's, 1 and 2. I think they really need a veteran and point guard. Not that it needs to be some superstar, some guy past his prime, someone to literally bring the ball up, because we saw a lot when Luka wasn't on the floor. No one could bring the ball up. I mean, Gabe Vincent can't bring the ball up. Dorian Finney-Smith can't bring the ball up.
No, teams were pressuring guys like Reaves like crazy.
Right, Reaves can't. Reaves can create for himself, but he's not some distributor. I would like to see the rest of this team with a legit veteran point guard who can at least distribute a little bit. And I think Reaves, we know Luka's going to explode, but these guys could really fit in well. I think that's kind of a underrated piece going into next year.
All right, Knicks and the Pacers coming up tonight. Knicks down 3-1. Who do you, I got no problem doing this, and I feel like I'm off on a lot of my predictions these playoffs so far. I thought Knicks were going to win the series. Pacers are up 3-1. Coming into the series, just out of curiosity, did you have I'm going to give the chat a lot of credit. There's a lot of people in the chat that have been saying, hey, don't sleep on the Pacers, don't sleep on the Pacers. I slept on the Pacers. What did you think coming into this series? And then what do you think of the rest of the series the rest of the series between the two teams?
Yeah, I went Knicks. I actually kind of said that I thought the Pacers might upset the Cavs, and I was proud of myself for that. And then, of course, I went against it because I thought it couldn't happen twice in a row. So then I went with the Knicks. So the series has been so odd because you feel like a couple plays go different ways. This could be 3-1 Knicks. The Pacers have been fantastic. The pace of play has been unbelievable from them.
Fun games too. Yeah.
There hasn't really been a bad game. Game 4 was the only game, even though it was a good game, that you felt like the Pacers probably controlled it from start to finish, because obviously the Knicks blew the huge lead in game 1.
But can I tell you something about game 4, which is you're right about it, because the Knicks have been so good in coming back that you almost felt like a 10-point lead by the Pacers didn't even hold that much weight, just because that's 3 times they've come back in the playoffs from 20 down.
The one thing I will say, because I heard you earlier, I don't think the series is done. I actually think the Knicks are going to win tonight. I think the fact that if this were to go 7, 2 of the games would be at the Garden.
Yeah.
Game 4, it really was exposed that Brunson and Cat had no help. And I think what we saw against the Celtics is Bridges and Anunoby were not only are they really good defenders, they were kind of getting their returns offensively and were becoming legit scorers. And then Brunson took over down the stretch. This series hasn't really been like that. The Pacers are a lot like Oklahoma City, where they can kind of anyone. I mean, Turner, Halliburton, Nesmith, Mathurin had 20 off the bench in game 4, which he hadn't been playing very well. So it's I think it being at the Garden, I think they win it. Game 4 definitely had the most pressure on the Pacers, because if you had lost 2 at home after winning 2 on the road, I think the series might have been over in 6 for the Knicks. But I hope the Knicks win tonight. I hope the series kind of continues, because the Western Conference was definitely a little bit of a dud, Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, we have what do we have? I think they don't play the NBA Finals for a week. So I think the NBA Finals starts a week from today. So you're right. I mean, listen, if Pacers close this thing out, then we're doing nothing for a week. And it's
Yeah.
also going to be Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Does that bother you at all that it's not? I've said this before and I'll say it again. I don't care the size of the market. I just want good basketball. And if it's Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Finals, I'm watching every game. But I don't know if I'm the right target because I'm watching NBA games, period. I could see where, there isn't much interest because of the teams. At the same time, I think parity is good. I really do. I think parity is good for the league. And I think to have, markets that walk into a series saying, hey, we got actually a shot, or walk into a season saying we got a shot, not just making the playoffs, but maybe getting to the Eastern or Western Conference Finals. I don't think that's bad for the league.
Yeah, it's in terms of ratings. I mean, I'm sure the NBA is like, damn. I mean, how do we get the coast involved here? This is how we know the NBA is not rigged, because if it was, it would be Lakers Knicks every year, or it'd be Lakers Celtics or Warriors, something like that. Certainly not for the masses. I do think it'll actually be a good series because the Pacers are kind of just a not as talented Oklahoma City, but they play with the kind of pace that could give them some problems. I think that just like Oklahoma City, they can kind of score from wherever. The Pacers can kind of do the same thing if it is them. But I'm excited for it. Again, I'm like you. I'll be watching no matter what. I'm curious. I doubt the ratings will be that good. The one storyline, though, that I feel like the league has to push is you kind of will see the coronation of a new star, whether that's Shea or if it's Tyrese Halliburton. Because if Halliburton were to upset this and win this thing, I mean, we've talked about face of the NBA. Does it have to be an American-born player? Is it your how you talk? Is it your accolades? Is it your highlights? Like what does it? If Halliburton as an American superstar goes in and beats Oklahoma City, we'd be talking about a new face of the NBA. So I think that there's kind of a storyline there that the NBA should push for ratings.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the whole face of the NBA is so blown out of proportion. I think it will come as it comes. I think there's such a forced that I'm going to give Ant as an example. Ant's 23 years old, phenomenal player. But they were so pushing. Like I remember last year, I'm like, can you guys stop talking about Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards? Can we stop that? Like, that is such an unfair thing for Anthony Edwards. Yeah. And by the way, you're just picking the greatest player to ever play the game. Like you don't want to pick Dominique Wilkins or, like, can you pick somebody that's not Michael Jordan? Hey, this guy has some similarities to this player, that player. But anyways, I think that's just going to come with the territory, and we'll go from there. Okay, so you think we're going to get a game 6 between the Pacers and the Knicks, and we'll go from there. Sammy, thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
You're the best, brother.
Appreciate you giving your Laker opinions here. We'll get you back on soon, but thank you for coming on. All right, bud?
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody.
All right, that is Sammy Long right there. Sammy Long doing his work. All right, there is just anyways that whole conversation about the face of the league. That one always kind of also always annoyed me. It annoyed me just because I'm like, for the love of God, can Anthony Edwards actually let this man actually develop, make an NBA Finals? Blah blah blah. They're like, yeah, Anthony Edwards, Michael Jordan, sure, yeah, no, go ahead. Compare him to the greatest player ever. All right, let me see a couple comments here, and then I got a few other things I want to get into. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers win it all. Made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Beat a healthy Giannis and the Bucks. Not necessarily healthy because Dame was out. Took out the number 1 seeded Cavs and will most likely beat the hard-nosed Knicks. Yeah, I mean, I of all the series that they win to get here, beating the Knicks to me would be most impressive because at least with the Cavs, there was some injuries. Evan Mobley was out. Garland wasn't 100%. Hunter, I don't think, was 100%. So they had some players that were not there. But beating the Knicks, all the momentum that the Knicks had, home court advantage for the Knicks, and we'll see what happens in regards to that. Not ignoring Caruso's impact. I'm saying all the whining about a role is ridiculous when the Clippers traded the MVP. That part's true. Caruso played for the Bulls in last year. What happened to the GOAT then? I said this. I said this earlier. It's one of the more brilliant trades that the Oklahoma City Thunder made. They had a good player in Josh Giddey. Giddey did well with the Chicago Bulls. They didn't need Getty. They needed Alex Caruso. They needed that type of player with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's not just about, hey, what did that player do for that team? What can this player do in a specific role? Caruso's been brilliant for the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you're going to tell me that if the Thunder don't trade for Alex Caruso, that's a different team. They needed Alex Caruso, and that guy is, obviously fitting in perfectly and is clearly giving his value to a team that specifically needed that. All right. Couple other things I want to get into real quick. I do want to talk a little bit about Jaxson Hayes, and I got something I want to do on KCP, so I'm going to do that here in just a second. Before I do, shout out to our partner, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Thank you very much for being a partner. You guys know, obviously, I've been talking about Brad Wallace now here for a couple of months. I want to give everyone just a quick example of a specific case that Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm was representing. I've said this before. If you need somebody, if you or a family member has been in a serious injury or a wrongful death case, there was a case that Brad and his team was handling for a client of theirs for about 5 years. It was against Home Depot. Home Depot didn't settle, and Brad did exactly what he said he was going to do. He took them to trial. About a month and a half back, following a 2-week trial, which included Brad's closing arguments at the Van Nuys Courthouse in Los Angeles County, the jury delivered a $4.6 million verdict on behalf of the Wallace Firm's client and found Home Depot responsible for nearly $3 million of that amount. I hope you guys never need an injury attorney. I know there's a lot of injury attorneys that are represented out here in Southern California, a lot of billboards, ads, all that stuff. I can tell you firsthand, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm, they're one of the best in the business. A man that stands by his word, a man that is supporting the channel, somebody that is very, very well connected within the community of Southern California. We did create a URL, wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. You can click on my link in the description here and feel free to obviously, if you want a personal introduction, I can make a personal introduction, or you can just go to that website and get a free consultation. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Appreciate them being a part of the show. Okay, let's keep moving here. Jaxson Hayes. Can I get everybody's thoughts real quick here on Jaxson Hayes? There was an article. I was going to bring this up. Was this going to come up yesterday? But there was something in that was out there, and I'm gonna read this off here real quick, just so I'm getting this properly, getting the facts straight here. Another podcaster out there, Anthony Irwin, does a good job with the work that he does. He put out that will return to the Lakers. Okay. I'm going to read a couple things here and then we'll keep going. In terms of returning talent, sources say there is an outside chance of Jaxson Hayes returning, but he wasn't thrilled about his role disappearing in the postseason and the money he lost as his minutes dwindled. He was on a minimum contract. So a lot of times if a player is signing a minimum contract with a team, especially if they're signing with the Lakers, they're hoping that they can kind of prove to everybody, that the rest of the league, hey, give me a chance, give me some minutes, and I could show you that I have value. I'm going to keep going here. From the Lakers' perspective, they're weighing Redick losing faith in him, how he might handle them bringing in his replacement, or the inevitable demotion he'd be in line for this summer. Okay, let me just give my thoughts real quick on Jaxson Hayes. I didn't mind Jaxson Hayes. Jaxson Hayes was fine. Jaxson Hayes, when Anthony Davis was a Laker, was fine. All good, no problem. Really didn't have an issue. They didn't have to give him a lot of money. He was on a minimum contract. Very, very little risk. Jaxson Hayes as your starting center, we got a problem. And that's more a problem from the Lakers roster construction than it is with Jaxson Hayes. Jaxson Hayes is not a starting center in the NBA. I think we all know that. I think we all understand that. And if Jaxson Hayes is not happy with his role, and certainly, I thought JJ Redick made mistakes in the playoffs, and part of it included Jaxson Hayes. I'm not overvaluing Jaxson Hayes. I'm just saying that when you don't have any size, when another team is pushing you around, they're killing you on the offensive glass, and you're not using the only 7-footer that you have, that's that. Coach, make an adjustment here. I watched a lot of coaches in the playoffs, and you can pick any team that you want that started. I'll use Kerr as an example. There were games where Steve Kerr was using 10, 11, 12, 13 guys in the playoffs because he's just trying to figure out, can I find something that will potentially work, especially with Steph Curry being out? I'm going to take some chances. JJ Redick didn't do that. And if JJ Redick is known for in the playoffs playing a game where in the second half he didn't make one substitution, and obviously we know what happened. The Lakers ended up losing that game 4, and it's the first time in the history of the NBA a coach has never made a sub in the second half. That's on JJ Redick. That's not on Jaxson Hayes. But I just don't see Jaxson Hayes, a part of the future for the Lakers unless he's coming off the bench. And unless it's probably on a minimum contract. And if Jaxson Hayes wasn't happy with his role, I don't blame him. But I also don't think the Lakers are going to try to move heaven and earth to keep Jaxson Hayes. So part of this had to do with more, in my opinion, of JJ Redick and his maybe stubbornness in the playoffs, maybe his lack of adjustments in the playoffs. But the other part of it is as well, if you're going to be a team that truly is contending or trying to, get to the Western Conference Finals or trying to make a real run, we all know Jaxson Hayes can't be your starting center. So going on that report of he probably most likely will not come back to the Lakers is probably a combination of the two. I think the Lakers probably won't lose sleep if Jaxson Hayes is not a Laker. And I think Jaxson Hayes is also saying to himself, well, I wasn't used properly in the playoffs. My value went down, and I'm going to try to find a different opportunity somewhere else. So let me just kind of read a couple of these comments here because I am curious to see what people think in regards to Jaxson Hayes. We'll take it from there. All right, let's see what we got here. Some people trying to make a case for trying to go get a guy like Bam Adebayo. Let's see here. Yeah, I think a lot of people actually kind of comments-wise in regards to Jaxson Hayes, I don't think too many people would be losing too much sleep over it. But I do think that there's not going to be too many people that are looking back here. Jaxson Hayes is just a $2 million guy. Don't spend too much time on him. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Jax is a legitimate lob threat, so he's worth a minimum or similar for sure. He improved a lot the last 2 years and still has potential to improve. He's young and physically gifted. Just can't be your starting guy, right? It's got to be a guy that comes off the bench that's giving you maybe 15 minutes a game, and then, that's it. But you got to have a real starting center that's going to be there for the Lakers, and that's obviously going to be their number one priority. Lakers going to need a center, a bench, an assistant to check the coach, and a person in the organization to tell Bronny to go start a podcast. All right, let me get a couple more in here, and then there's one other topic that I want to get into as well. Jaxson Hayes can play well as a backup center, no 35 minutes a game, maybe 15 minutes a game. Exactly what I said. 15 minutes, that's all you're really going to ask from him. Jaxson has no defense, not worth it. Go get Capella. I think everybody agrees. I'd take Clint Capella over Jaxson Hayes in a heartbeat. Now, listen, they still need a 7-footer that's sitting on the bench. Jaxson Hayes can't be a dude that you're starting a game with. That's the best way to put it. Hayes was gone after JJ benched him in game 3. Could be right there. And then, listen, again, some of this also is the mistake that you have of JJ Redick. So I think it's a combination of the two in regards to how Jaxson Hayes was used. Okay, final thing I want to get into here, and I'm going to call it a day. I appreciate you guys hanging out, and thank you for being a part of the show. I mentioned this one, so I'm going to get into it. I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you guys see this. KCP making a bold comment here. Bold comment from KCP. Let me share this with you guys so we can kind of read it together. KCP, obviously former Los Angeles Laker. KCP says the GOAT debate would have been over by now if the Lakers had kept the 2020 title team together. That team, we had a lot of moments where everything just clicked for us off the court, on the court, inviting to each other's houses. We were just hanging out with each other. Those were my brothers. I spent more time with my team than my family. I think if we kept that team together, we would have run off 2 more. There would be no more GOAT talk. That would have put LeBron at 6. KCP feeling a certain way about that roster and that team. You know, it's funny. If I tell people right now, if I say, hey, what's the biggest mistake Rob Pelinka has made as president of basketball operations for the Lakers? I think some people are going to say Russell Westbrook. I think some people are going to say, let me think here. What are some other things that people would say in regards to that? Maybe not hiring Ty Lue. I mean, but, you know, you ended up getting Frank Vogel and you won an NBA championship. So, frankly, I don't think that one is, you know, holds a lot of weight. But I think the thing people would say most is, why did you change that championship roster in 2020? Listen, I don't agree with KCP that they're going to win 2 more and the GOAT conversation is over and the Lakers would have three-peated and LeBron would have had 6 NBA championships. I'm not going that far, but I think what KCP is trying to say is, yeah, we would have had a shot at another championship. Now, there's a lot of factors that come into play here. A guy like Rajon Rondo wanted to go get paid, and I think he got a 2-year deal with the Atlanta Hawks. You know, there's some other guys that maybe felt like they wanted a bigger role. It's not easy to keep championship teams together. I don't know how much was just on Rob Pelinka, but I will tell you this. When they got Marc Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, and Dennis Schroeder, it felt like the Lakers had a shot again at competing for an NBA championship. Now, we know what the problem was. The problem was Anthony Davis got hurt in the playoffs when the Lakers were up 2-1 against the Phoenix Suns, and then it was a wrap. That's it. It was done. But KCP felt, you know, and who am I to question KCP? KCP was phenomenal for the Lakers. KCP was a key role player for the Lakers. And I've said this before, for those that have gone on and you know, have said, oh, Lakers won a bubble championship, blah, blah, blah. Do you know how stacked that 2020 championship team was? Do you know how stacked that team was? Guys, this is the roster for 2020. They had LeBron, Anthony Davis, Rondo, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, Danny Green, KCP, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, Avery Bradley, I think, was on that team, Markieff Morris. They had a squad. So anybody that wants to say to themselves that, you know, that team wasn't good enough to go win another championship or they weren't good enough to win in the bubble, I don't know what the hell you're telling yourself. That was one of the best teams in the league, no question about it. And the fact that the Lakers won a championship that year should not be a surprise or a shock at all. They had a squad. Now, good enough to go win 2 more on top of that one? Probably not, but certainly good enough. J.R. Smith, that's right. J.R. Smith was on that team as well. J.R. Smith was a baller as well. They had a team. So all I could say is that at least at the end of the day, that team was really good. Was it good enough to go win a couple more championships? And would the GOAT conversation end? Maybe that's a little bit aggressive from KCP, but you know how he feels about his squad. Okay, I'm back on tomorrow, 8 a.m. in the morning. We got potentially just one more NBA playoff game here. We'll see what eventually happens, but the New York Knicks got the Indiana Pacers. We got them coming up, so that's going to be tonight, and we'll see if the Pacers can close it out. Thank you very much for hanging out here. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Really fun show today, so thank you for being a part of it. Good topics, good conversations, and a great chat throughout the broadcast as well. So thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Enjoy the NBA game tonight.